Welcome back again, folks, to another vlog of Finish Strong Cycling. Hi, my name is James. I'm with Team Finish Strong, and this is week 4 in the Zwift's Community League race. This is a Category E race, which means that all categories are combined. A, B, and C, and D riders are all racing together. So we've got riders of all abilities here this evening for the race. It's considered a Europe race because of the time that the race starts is an evening race for most of the folks that are riding in Europe. So we've got folks from England, other European countries, some professionals here in this particular race, and some video loggers like myself racing as well, so you can check out some of their feeds. What's cool about this race is you do have the opportunity to race with some really fast folks. I'm going to actually try to give my try at racing with the A's as long as I can hold out. So we'll see how long I can hang on to the front group here, just to give it a go. For those of you who are into sports, if you've ever wondered, what would it be like if I could race alongside a pro, or play football with an NFL team, or run against a marathon runner, and it's really interesting to see, just kind of where you stack up in comparison to some folks who really make this their passion and their livelihood. So we're getting ready to start here. The countdown has begun, and we're about to start off. So let's see how things go. All right, we're getting started here. And as usual with these races, it starts off very fast. So while I would normally not be pushing this hard coming out of the opening or the gate, I wanted to see how long I could stay with that front group. And as you can see here, within a matter of seconds, I'm already seeing myself getting farther and farther behind the folks at the front. And here I am, I'm averaging around 300 more watts coming up to that first incline, and still seeing it not likely that I'm going to be able to hang on very long. And I think at about this point, I realize the front group is just not attainable for me. I'm just going to have to find a group to get in with and stick with them. So coming over the top of this hill, this is the first incline in Zwift when you're doing the reverse loop, and it's pretty brutal, especially when you're already doing an extremely fast pace. We're going to take the right T-junction and head towards the volcano circuit. And after the T-junction, it's settling down somewhat to a group that I can keep with, and so I decided to go ahead and just settle into a rhythm that I'm going to be keeping for the rest of the race. So it took all of 1 minute for the A group to leave me in the dust. I can't even see them anymore up the road. So that kind of gives you some perspective on just how fast professional cyclists are. Now, these Zwift races, just to give some of you folks who are new to Zwift, they're really fun way to get your feet wet if you've never tried racing before. The greatest thing is that the races are free. It doesn't cost you anything. And they happen every day, throughout the day. All you got to do is use the Zwift Companion app to look and find a race that you think you might enjoy. They have flat races, hilly races, even the occasional KOM race. So great variety for you. The element of danger also is removed from racing. So you get to learn more about tactics and how much fitness you're going to need for a particular event. It's really cool. I've been doing Zwift racing now for about a year and a half off and on, more so during the winter season when the road racing season is kind of dormant. And it's been very fun for me. In fact, I have to tell you, it's almost more fun than real racing for a variety of reasons. Now, getting back to the race at hand, you can see here we're in the midst of the volcano circuit. We've got a pretty decent-sized group that we're riding with. Let's see if I can pick up those riders as they're coming through. And it looks like I was able to hang with them. So basically, the volcano circuit race that we did this week is not the inner loop of the volcano itself. It's the perimeter of the volcano plus the Italian village and the zigzags in a reverse fashion. It goes down past the waterfront and down into Ocean Boulevard and then back again. So it's a much larger loop around the volcano than simply the inner loop that some of you may be familiar with. That being said, it's a little bit more challenging because it's flat in a lot of sections, but then there's enough climbs that it can really tax you, especially if the group tries to push the pace as they do in some of these sections. And so the pace was pretty high on this particular day. I think I happened to get in with a group that was right about at my limit in terms of my being able to sustain a certain amount of power. So, which is good for me because I find that I stretch myself when I run with a faster group than me, and I found that some of my best power figures for a race come when I'm racing with a group where I can barely hang on, and that's kind of what you see here. Not really dominating this particular race, just basically trying to hang on. But interestingly, now I won't let the cat out of the bag yet. We'll talk about that when we get to the end. So I would just encourage you, if you are looking to gain some fitness and you're not interested in the structured workouts, if they're kind of blasé-blah for you, try your hand at Zwift racing. Especially these mass start races where all the categories are mixed together. What you'll find is that you can pretty much fall in with just about any group that you want. In some cases, not particularly on this day because I was pretty much right at full gas the whole race, but on some days, if you happen to fall in with a group that's a little bit slower, you can look to try to advance so that you gain some understanding of tactics on when the best time is to bridge, spotting breaks, and all of that. So, and right now you might see me occasionally going over to my tablet. What I'm doing there, again, for those of you who may not be too familiar with Zwift, just giving either ride-ons or other acknowledgments to individuals that I happen to see during the race. Just a way to make the race social, more interesting, and interact with folks. There are some that use an app called Discord. It's more, I think, typically used in team environments to discuss and keep track of each of the other racers in the race so that you can continue to adapt your strategy. And here we are coming up one of the climbs, and they are once again pushing the pace on the climbs, as you can see, keeping the pace pretty high. So, which was a challenge for me on this particular day. But it was good. I enjoy it every time that I get a chance to challenge myself. So, and that's pretty much what we see for most of the race. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the later section of the race because there was something interesting I want to discuss, and it's important maybe to talk about. And what we have here is the last lap of the race. We've just come out of the Italian Village, and we're heading up a 3% grade towards the T-junction that sends us back down the zigzag and towards Ocean Boulevard. And I don't know if you can spot it here, but if you see, the group is actually pulling away from me. I did not realize it. I mean, I'm putting out plus 300 watts, and the group is still just kind of creeping away from me. It wasn't until I get up to the T-junction itself and I see those riders going off ahead of me and how much of a gap I had that I realized, uh-oh, I'm in trouble here, folks. So I go ahead and I start putting some more power down and seeing if that will get me caught up to the group, and doing close to 400 watts here, still not catching up. So I'm getting a little bit worried here and going, uh-oh. And it almost looks like they're getting farther away, and getting worried that I'm actually about to get thoroughly dropped from this group. So I increase the power more. I'm really struggling here, really hurting. You can see heart rate up to about 170 beats a minute. And then finally, I get caught back on. And that was really scary for me at this particular point. I think what happened was they carried so much speed through that T-junction and down that zigzag that once you drop off the group, you just have no idea how much power you've got to maintain just to even stay a certain distance from the group. And that's part of the aerodynamics and CDA calculations of Zwift, and it's a factor of real-life racing as well. That draft element is so important. And if you're like me, just barely hanging on to the back of the group in this particular case, when you get out of that draft, it can spell for disaster. And here I am trying to recover a little bit, turn the fan up, and just try to get ready for the next hill, because I know that it's going to get surgy again there. And so right now, just kind of relaxing in the draft, and that's what's so odd. You know, you worked so hard just a second ago to just try to even catch up with the group, and now once you're back in the group, it's relatively calm again. The group stays this way for much of the remainder of the event, so I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward to the last minute. The group has reached Ocean Boulevard by this point, and we're heading down, getting ready for our last big climb up and out of the aquarium, if you want to call it that. And the pace has picked up some. The group is, even in the draft now, we're pushing somewhere between 200 and 250 watts. Realizing that I've got this one last big climb coming up, I knew that probably I needed to be positioned closer to the front of the group so that I can maintain contact with the group coming out of that climb, especially as tired as I was. So I'm slowly just kind of ramping up the power a little bit to try to position myself close to the front of the group, which you can see here. And we're getting ready to come up that last climb. And here we go. Starting to kick it. Some folks I've found on Zwift like to kick it a little bit early, even before they start the climb. So be prepared for that, for potentially a surge or a jump just before some of these climbs if you're trying to maintain contact with the group. And as you can see here, I'm doing pretty good coming up out of this climb. I did have a feather power up, which helped immensely. Kept me from not being able to maintain the group's pace. And so here we are. I'm in a pretty good position, heading down towards the finish, and we're just now about a minute away. So at this point, everything is ramping up. There's really no more resting at this point. You're just trying to, if anything, maintain contact with the folks at the front if you're trying to position yourself for a good sprint or a good finish. And for me, that's all I basically could do. I'm hurting at this point. Got not much left in the tank. Used up quite a bit on that last recovery, not that far back. And so for me, just kind of any finish that keeps me in with this particular group was satisfactory for me. We're rounding the T-junction, and as you know, those of you who are veteran Zwifters, this is the time to put it on. So go ahead and get my sprint on, which is nothing more than just a bit more power than what I had before, just trying to find something left in the tank. And as you can see, other folks are just passing me. They've got some aero power-ups, and I'm not even trying to keep up with those folks at this point. I just want to have a halfway decent finish and decide with what little I had left, I was going to go ahead and do a full-out sprint. But for some reason, my power meter decided to freeze up, and I didn't get credit for any of that watts that I put out there. And I just finished pretty much where I was at. No surge there at the end. So that's the end of the race. I believe I finished in 211th out of 411 riders, which put me in a B category, 51 out of 99. I was pretty pleased with that. And so stay tuned next week. Hopefully I'll be able to live stream the next Zwift Community League race. And don't forget to like or subscribe. Thanks.